After that, we move to 1898. In eastern France, there is a vampire man hunting a deer, but he did not succeed in hitting it with a gun. So he leaves it and hunts it with his hand, then returns to his son, and his son asks him why he took the trouble to bring it if he was not going to use it. And his father tells him that he could not injure it. So he tells him that the mayor is kind and sent it. At least I had to try it. And using these things gives a good impression of understanding with humans. But the boy is objecting to his father's words and tells him that a vampire hunter attacked them. But the father tells him that they should all get along with humans, whether they like it or not. And then they go home, and his son asks him to get rid of the hunter's weapon, which is made of silver. And his father tells him no, and that keeping it will be safer. And on his way to the store, he finds the lock broken. When he entered the store, he found the hunter's weapon stained with vampire blood. Then he called the rest of the family to check on them. Then he ran to check on his wife, and found her killed and soaked in blood. After that, the press came to meet the husband, who claims Mr. Goddard, to find out the details of the investigation into the murder of his wife. But Mr. Goddard refused to talk to them. But he was stopped by a young girl who is also a journalist, and he asked her how old she is, and she told him that she is Annie Kerber, 14 years old, and asked him about the details of the case. He tells her that the investigation into the case has stopped, that he has not drunk a drop of human blood in more than 20 years, that he and his family go to church every Sunday evening, and in the end, is this a treatment we deserve? And she tells him that I mean that there is discrimination against vampires who are allies of humans, and he tells him yes, and she should be careful to write Mr. Goddard's strong displeasure with how the police handled the incident, and then ask him how he will get to the truth then, and he tells her that he appoints a private detective, and he hears about a couple in the East who specialize in monster cases, and the girl asks him if he means Aya Rindo and Tsugaru Shonichi, and he tells her yes, this duo. After that, we move to Aya and Tsugaru, and they form a team to investigate the cases of monsters until they reach the old man who stole Aya's body, and they are on their way to Mr. Goddard to solve the case of his wife's killers. And we get to know the members of Mr. Goddard's family, namely, the eldest son Claude, the middle son Raul, the youngest daughter Charlotte, and the servants Alfred and Giselle, who are humans. After that, our team arrives at Mr. Goddard's mansion. Then Mr. Goddard receives them, and Tsugaru introduces himself to Mr. Goddard. Then Mr. Goddard tells him that he heard that he specializes in monster issues, and Tsugaru tells him that he is just a student, and his teacher is the one who takes care of the real work. But whatever she says, she does not remember that she took him as a student, and that you are only my assistant. But Mr. Goddard looks at Shizuko and thinks she is the one who is talking. Then she says that despite her physical condition, she will have no problem solving this case, and that she will track down the killer who killed his wife. After that, Shizuko orders to move the bags with the servant Alfred to their room. After that, Mr. Goddard asks, since she is the maid, where is Aya Rindo? She tells Aya to Tsugaru to remove the cover. Everyone is surprised by what they saw, so they ask her how she is still alive. And she tells them that she lost her body about a year ago, and tells them that she loves watching the expressions of everyone when they see her for the first time. Then she asks Mr. Goddard how he found the body, and he tells them what happened. Then she asks him how many people live in the palace, and he tells her that except for his murdered wife Hannah, they are a family of 4 members and servants, and she tells him that she knew that his wife was a human, and Mr. Goddard tells her that it is true. Then Aya and Tsugaru go to inspect the scene of the crime. And then you notice from the picture of the body that her expressions are peaceful. His wife, Hannah, was asleep at the time, and he would say yes, which is also a reason why we didn't hear her screaming. And then she would go on to check the place. Then she asks Mr. Goddard about the silver stake, and if the hunter who had it puts it inside a pot. And Mr. Goddard tells her no, and that he was holding it in his hand. And then she tells him that she heard that vampires burn when they touch silver or holy water. And Mr. Goddard tells her that he just almost burned his hand as soon as his hand approached the silver stake. And the regenerative power of vampires does not work when they are injured, and it may take recovery from a simple burn a whole week. So he asked Alfred to take the stake from the hunter, and then ask him who had the keys to the store. Mr. Goddard tells her only he and Alfred, and then asks her if she has come up with something, and she tells him that there is only one thing she cannot understand, which is the timeline of the crime. And if the killer came from outside the palace, a total of 7 problems will appear. The first problem is why Hannah did not show any signs of waking up, and she was more sensitive to sound and smells than humans. It is strange that she did not pay attention to the attacker. The second problem is that the killer did not sneak up at night specifically, and even the children realized the vampire forces weaken during the day. The third problem is that the killer did not leave the holy water bottle at the crime scene, and he used that coat to avoid blood often flying on it. But it is easy for him to take the bottle with him. The fourth problem is how did the killer know that the silver stake was in the storeroom? It is strange that he knew the exact location of Hannah's room and when she was likely to be asleep. The fifth problem is that the killer did not pull the silver stake after stabbing it and returning it to the store. After that, Mr. Goddard notices that his daughter Charlotte is standing, so they decide to discuss the last 2 problems later.
If you like the video, don't forget to subscribe to the channel and click on the like and write your opinion in the comments.